and welcome to another episode of Determination, Deliberation, and Dragons. So, as always, I'm Peter. My cousin Tess is busy today. She's doing important summer things. But instead of Tess, you'll hear from the wonderful Elijah. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
So, we're just gonna have our few introductory questions so people can get to know you.
Sure.
And I guess we'll link to your YouTube channel too, at the end of this. But first of all, just really briefly, your so we always ask people just to say your name and your pronouns if you want to share.
Sure, absolutely. So, my name is Elijah. My pronouns are she, her, and online, a lot of people know me as Not-So-Average-Fangirl. So either name pretty much works for me.
Awesome. And then we usually ask what your favorite book is, but as I was telling you beforehand, um, Elijah reacts to a ton of just really fun different cartoons and things. So I mean, she reacts to Owl House as well. So if you want to
hmm
expand it, if you have a favorite show that takes precedence, up to you.
Yeah, that's honestly one of my hardest questions I get. I actually get that question a lot, and I can't pick one because they are all my favorites for different reasons. They all do different things for me. There's different things I absolutely love about them. So I don't really have a favorite. I just love entertainment in general, shows and movies together. So yeah, I can't pick one. It's it's too hard.
My next question after that is, since we have dragon in the title of our podcast, we do ask what your favorite dragon is. This can be interpreted however you want.
Ooh, actually, that's a really good question. I actually have, I don't know if you remember, there was this dragonology book growing up.
Oh, yes.
I have it, and it's actually behind me in my desk. And I was just always fascinated by dragons in general. I think if I were to be a dragon, I'd probably definitely go for a water dragon or something like that. I think that'd be really, really cool.
That is amazing. Water dragons are great.
Yeah, I even
Um,
taught myself the dragon language. I learned how to read and write the language that they had in that book. And I would always
oh,
write
that's
these
so
little notes
cool.
and my friends could never understand it. And I was like, yeah, it's because you don't know dragon language. I
That's so
thought it was
cool.
real. I thought it was real.
I mean, you wrote it, so it's real. I mean, I learned the runes from How to Train Your Dragon, so I used to write in that.
Isn't it
They're
the
they're
best
real.
though?
It's so fun.
Absolutely.
Um, and then so two more questions. One is also kind of just the silly, what's just a fun fact about yourself?
Ooh, a fun fact about myself. I, oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I think when I tell people who don't watch my channel what the fun fact is, it would be, oh yeah, I react to cartoons and fun stuff. But I guess if you already know that, a fun fact is that I prefer sometimes cartoons over real life shows. Actually, no, that's not fun. I prefer fan fiction over regular books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like there's more freedom in fan fiction that authors get to have. Where when I read a lot of books, I feel like a lot of times they have to follow a certain publishing standard, if that makes sense. So I've noticed myself. I used to go to the library a lot, and now I've actually weaned away from the library, and I read way more fan fiction than I do actual published books.
Oh, that's really interesting.
It's a fun fact.
I mean, that's incredible. And fan fiction can be so fun. I don't read too much. I used to be way more into fan fiction, especially How to Train Your Dragon fan fiction, but
Word.
um but
They are
that's so
hit or
cool.
miss. Yeah, they are hit or miss
Yeah.
for sure. But when you can find a good gem, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Um and our last question, so we always ask people, since we're a creative writing podcast and we want to kind of dive into what stories and writing kind of means for us.
Mm.
Um why the question is basically why do you like stories?
Oh,
What do they
that's a
mean to
great
you?
question.
Or I don't know if you write. I know you do music.
I do write fan
Um
fiction as well.
okay. So
I
in that
write
case
for Pitch
what
Perfect.
so in that case you can also what does writing mean to you?
Sure. Yeah. I absolutely adore stories and storytelling. I am a huge stories kind of a person, which is why I love movies, I love television, I love fan fiction, I love art, I love I love dance, where you can use dance as a form of telling stories. I when I make my music videos, I always try to portray a story in them. I for me, some music videos can be cool and just have a bunch of random stuff just to have it, but I really appreciate the music videos that actually tell the story of the song or tell a story as well as the song. So they mean a lot to me. I feel like stories are very powerful. They can help people. They can be really fun. They can be an escape. From, hard things in the real world. So I have a very, very soft spot for stories for sure. I absolutely adore them in any way, shape, or form.
Wonderful. And that's definitely, I mean, the point of this is just to like dive into those stories and see what we can learn or just like having fun with them. So
Absolutely.
awesome. But with that, so we'll dive on into the episode. So we both watched season one, episode two,
Yes.
and yeah, I think so. First, we're just gonna like briefly kind of recap the events of the episode.
Sure.
So, so I'll just like briefly go over it in the barest of terms possible. But basically,
Go for it.
so day two, Luce is in the demon realm on the Boiling Isles. She wakes up, she's all excited to learn magic, and she finds out that she just needs to work selling potions for Ida. So she's, absolutely not thrilled about that.
Nope,
And
not at
uh,
all.
no. And as she's going, like, so King is going with her, and they go around the Boiling Isles, and they knock on doors, they sell potions. Luce is not having it, and then they run into this wizard, person
Mm.
who appears to be a wizard, and Luce gets kind of wrapped in this like quest thing that he tells her about, and like she thinks she's like the chosen one who needs to go and get this like celestial staff from the lake, and she has to go through all these things. Ida like is following behind because Ida realizes like, oh, she's being scammed.
Yeah,
So apparently scams abound on the Boiling Isles.
especially with wizards.
Yeah. So yeah, and then finally like Luce kind of realizes like, oh, this is all like a scam. She's not the chosen one, and they defeat the
Oh,
monster, and they have a wonderful Ida and Luce have a wonderful like chat at the end. So what we're gonna do, our first section after our recap is just talking about like the character of Luce in like each episode. In
yeah.
and the title of this category, I call it Following the Light, because
Ooh, that's
obviously
so nice.
I have like fun names for some of them, and some of them I just couldn't figure out like stuff for.
That's a great one. I like that one.
But yeah, so I guess at first, like what do you notice about Luce? Like what stood out to you in this episode? Like where is she at in her character progression at the moment?
Yeah, you know what? It's actually really interesting to go back and watch such an early on episode. I haven't seen season one since it aired. That was the first time I've
Mm,
gone back to watch season one. So to see where she is currently in the show and to see where she started, it's amazing. Like, and not just her, like Ida King, to see the growth is pretty interesting and amazing considering, it's only a certain amount of episodes. So I think Luce specifically in the beginning is very young. Very her youth really shows. Especially in this episode, she's just so excited to go on a quest and she's so obsessed with what she thinks witches and magic is about because of these Azura books. And when she kind of gets the harsh reality of it, it changes her perspective and is kind of a Debbie Downer on her positive attitude. But I think definitely it's very interesting to see how young she was and naive and stuff in these first episodes because if you watch Owl House currently, she's matured a lot. And so that's just kind of what I took from it, kind of being able to see her innocence in at the beginning of all of this, not knowing what was to come.
yeah, I definitely like didn't realize because like I think in season two she doesn't really go back to the Good Witches Zora books like at all. I think
Mm-mm.
there might be like maybe a reference or two that I'm missing, but like definitely not in the way that she's looking at these books now. And like I think that's definitely like where she got like this idea of what a magical world should be is from these books. And she
Right.
keeps, when she's in doubt of herself, like she goes to this book and she sees, pictures of Zora like standing with all these people like admiring her. So yeah, definitely just, and we've all been there too, just like,
Yeah.
wanting to be in these like magical fantasy worlds that we read about.
Of course, who
And
wouldn't?
yeah, until like it's only the last couple of years where I've really been like, maybe some of these worlds I don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan as well, and I used to be like, oh, I want to be a Jedi, and like I just finished Kenobi, and I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah, never mind.
No,
No, I totally get that. I think that was a very, I like your point that she doesn't refer to the books very often, and I feel like now it's because she's living her own story, and it's much more real than the fantasy she originally had been in love with and had painted for herself in her mind. So that's a very, very good point. You actually pointed something out I didn't really pay attention to, but you're right. She doesn't. She
I
lives
mean,
her own story.
yeah, and I think that's kind of like the mom's goal in sending her to the camp at first too. It didn't work out in quite the
Hmm.
same way that the mom thought it would, but
No.
like she's still at that point where she's like relying on the book and like these she's trying to befriend the characters like in that way.
Right.
um but we'll get to a point later on where she's really living her own story, as you said.
And kicking butt at it.
Yeah, her magic skills get like super crazy.
Oh God, so good though. So good.
She's still just like super curious and like interested in becoming a witch, and I love just like her excitement and enthusiasm, and like she dresses up with literally just like an old bathrobe. She doesn't
Yeah.
realize it, but
And a dirty street cone.
yeah.
That's
So
so funny. Also the humor. Like the humor has never, it's always been there and it's fun to kind of go back and see the early humor. It's still just as good and I think the humor is one of, I mean amongst other things, but it's definitely one of my favorite parts and aspects and about the show.
it's pretty good. I feel like the humor, like, because I was watching Amphibia kind of along like at the same time, and I
Hmm.
think the humor stood out so much more in that
Yeah.
like for a while I was like, oh, Owl House isn't as funny as like I as it could be, and kind of rewatching, I'm like, no, it's like it's hysterical.
It is. It
But
absolutely is.
okay, so that's kind of loose right now. So we'll move on to other characters. So the next section, I just called it like the character corner, just to talk about other characters in general and kind of separate out like our main protagonist from everyone else. So, there's a few other people. Are there any like characters who kind of stood out to you?
Um, yeah, Ida. It's interesting to see early on Ida, the whole motherly connection wasn't there yet. I mean, it's there a little bit, like she cares for Luz, but it's interesting to see how much that bond has grown since it started with Ida and actually with King too, because in this episode, there's a moment where Ida sends King to go off with Luz and he's like, "Oh, why?" And she's like, "Well, because you work for me, or unless you want to start paying rent." And it's like, so their relationship went from you work for me and you stay here for free to you're my son, and the relationship with Luz has switched to you're my daughter. And then between King and Luz, it's you're my sister, you're my brother. So it's like just their position in their relationship with Luz stood out to me because they have no idea the kind of time they're going to be spending with each other and the amount of love they're going to have for each other as their story progresses. So it's pretty interesting to see the beginning where Ida was just this wild witch, kind of like the same young Ida we kind of see where she was carefree and just did her thing and was more solo. And then to see her kind of grow into the mother she becomes is pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like I guess we don't see like too much of her relationship with King, and we see the whole like, he stays there for free and doesn't pay rent thing. Like he's been there for so long, as we find out later.
Yeah,
So
what, 8 years, right? Because he's 8 years old.
yeah, something like that.
It's a long
So
time.
yeah, so I don't know if like she's just, we're if that's like purposeful that we're like just getting this side of Ida like in the show, or if she
Yeah.
like does imagine him as being more of like a son at this point and we just like don't see it because we're like not supposed to see it as the audience.
Right, right.
But yeah, and she like she latches onto Luce like pretty early on, even though like she's not coming across as too motherly. Like by the end of it, she didn't have to like sit down and like show her, the Isle and like talk with her about, not waiting for prophecies and things. She could have just
Yeah.
been like, oh, like exciting day, like moving on.
Yeah, I feel
So
like Ida, as much as she tries to be cool and suave, she just can't help but care. She has a great heart. Her character has an amazing heart, so I feel like she can't help herself but care, even though she tries to fight it sometimes. It's like, no, you care. You care a lot.
yeah. And King is just, I mean, at this point he's just hysterical.
Oh, always. He's always. I can't with him. And all the little noises he makes, and Alex Hirsch does such a good job at voicing him. He's always like, and then when he eats, he makes these little noises, and when he scampers
Yeah.
around, it's just so funny.
I forgot about like his addiction to scones in this episode.
Yeah. Well, there's also another character that I caught. She's not shown in it, but I'm pretty sure Luce was talking about Amity when, and we haven't even met Amity yet. But if you go back to the part where she is asking King, "Oh, which should I be? Should I be the optimistic and hopeful, blah blah blah, like Azura, or should I be the aloof, brooding with paint with black nail polish who acts like she doesn't care but she does?" I
Oh,
was like, and I paused. I was like, she literally just described Amity. She described both of them because Luce is like the big optimistic one, and then Amity was the brooding with black nail polish and acts like she doesn't care but she does. So I found that funny. I was like, that had to be a foreshadowing of Amity. It had to. It was too specific.
I didn't even think of that. But like, no, I
Yeah.
think you're totally right. I mean, and like briefly, I do have a section where it's like supposed to be Amity, and like in the last episode, me and Tess were like, we announced it, and then we're like, she isn't in this episode, so moving on. But no, apparently she is in this episode in a way.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
didn't
think
even.
she's definitely mentioned characteristically wise and personality wise in season one. But we don't see her yet. I'm pretty sure that was a little shout out to her though, because she does show up a little bit later after that.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited to get to Amity in the next episode.
Yes. She's my favorite character.
She's mine. I cosplayed as her once. I didn't.
Me too.
That's awesome.
She's the best. I love it.
She's so good.
Was it her old green hair look, or did you cosplay as her new purple hair look?
I did the purple.
Me too.
Yeah. So I tried. I mean, my cosplay is not amazing. Like I'm not great at sewing, but
Every cosplay is
um,
amazing.
I tried. I tried. And my friend dressed up as Luce, so we had
Oh, that's cute.
what a little photo shoot together. But
Oh, that's awesome. I gotta see those.
so, but yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And definitely, I can't wait to just see their dynamic too. They
Oh,
have,
God, it's so good.
yeah,
And their growth is like a whole nother thing.
absolutely. Are there any other characters that like you wanted to talk about, or I think that's kind of
Yeah, for main ones, it's pretty much it because then you just have the puppeteer guy who kind of ran everything. I mean, it was kind of funny to see Luce's bi side come out and her attraction to the prince guy who she
hmm
thought was real, and then to see her, it's kind of funny because when I was watching it, she's like, gushing over this guy. I was like, please don't worry, your girlfriend's your future girlfriend's so much better. It's fine, and she's real. But
yeah,
but I appreciate that, they showed Luce being attracted to both genders in the show, because I feel like bi representation isn't always represented well. And it's not, mentioned or, sometimes the bi community gets bad rep, which I think is ridiculous. And so it's just kind of cool to go back and see that because, yeah, even though currently in the show she has a girlfriend who she loves and adores, but it does show, hey, she's also attracted to males as well, So I liked that. I thought it was cool that they were able to include both in the show.
yeah. I mean, Lumity is like so perfect, but it does kind of overshadow Luce's biness sometimes. So,
Right, right. And it's like
yeah,
I'm glad that the show didn't erase that. They show both, even though it's in different times and different periods of the show. It's like it's still there. Luce is bi, and I love that. I love that they get to show both of that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and then there's just Hootie, but
Yeah.
Hootie doesn't do too much right now.
He's like, I was just trying to say good morning to you. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Ow. It's so funny.
Um,
Oh, Hootie.
but okay, so moving on from characters, I so I really love talking about like setting and landscape. It just makes
Mm,
I studied geography in college, so it makes me happy. But
nice.
so this next section is the Boiling Isles travel advisory, what you need to know before you book your trip. Um,
Yes.
so we're still just learning about the setting and this like crazy new demon realm place. So what kind of stood out in the setting to you?
Probably like it was the first time we got a glimpse at Bonesborough, you know. It was like the first real time we even got an out like a wide shot of it. So for me, I think that actually stood out to me the most because I was like, "Oh wow, this was the first time we were really introduced to Bonesborough because now it's mentioned a lot where we currently are in the show. So to kind of see the first introduction to it and how fresh it was and how kind of scary, you know, because then Luce goes around and she's like, "Oh, I thought I'd be special being the only human, but everyone just wants to kill me and eat me." And like, and then she's got like the gnawing fairy thing on her elbow. And, you know, you got to see all the different characters and creatures that live in this realm. So I think I really like the freshness of it. It was kind of cool to go back to that and see when it was new, even though now in the show we're kind of so used to it, but to see it through the fresh eyes again was really interesting.
Yeah. My cousin and I last time we were just talking about how so many things are trying to eat either loose or
Yeah.
each other. And like I think there was like three cases, like they were trying to eat the person inside the TV, like the fairy
Yeah.
wanted to eat her. There was an ice cream that ate someone.
Yeah.
Like I'm just so curious about like the act of eating people here. Like what laws are there? Like
Everyone's
they
so
arrest
hungry.
it's just so crazy. Like they put all these people in the conformatorium for like writing fan fiction about food,
Yeah.
and yet there's literally people going around eating each other, and they're just like,
I
okay,
guess it's more like the animal kingdom in this world because, I mean, if you think about it, you think about the savannah, the jungle, animals eat each other all the time. Humans are the only ones that don't do that. We're
true.
civilized to some point.
To some degree,
Yeah,
yes.
to some degree, you know, there's moments where we're uncivilized, let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess like with all these different like types of demons and stuff, like they all have different dietary
Hmm.
needs, and
Yeah,
sometimes that means people.
clearly. I love the part too where Ida was like, "Oh, I haven't even had my first cup of apple blood yet." And Lucy's like, "You mean apple juice?" And she just goes, "No."
That still just confuses me and haunts me to this day. I want to know where they're getting this
Oh
apple blood
God.
from.
From the freaking core of the apples, the deep core of the apples, they squeeze it and just
That's terrifying.
with some apple blood ASMR for you.
Yeah, and I mean, even Ida like acknowledges that too. Like when Luce is heading out and she's talking to King, and she's like, "Go!" Like Luce is either going to be lost or eaten, like
Yeah.
probably both. So
And Luce just pops back at the window. No, I won't. She didn't even leave yet.
yeah, no, this place is. I mean, Bonesborough is kind of just frightening. Um,
Right?
and I love too like that we also just get like our first view like of the Titan itself, like and the idea that this
Mm.
place is like a is on the bones of something. Because I don't think we saw like a
King's
view like that in the
dead.
first episode.
Yeah, correct. I think you're right. It was more focused on Luce getting there, you know, so we didn't really explore that world too
Yeah,
much, I don't think. I think this episode was definitely the introduction to starting to explore the Boiling Isles for sure.
yeah, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about in relation to like the place of the Boiling Isles is just like
Mm.
how kind of centered around business everything is. Like
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Ida likes to talk about how she's the most powerful witch, and I don't think we see that quite yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but like she's working on like the antagonist that we see is literally just like focused on kind of destroying Ida's business because like she's a competitor, and
Yeah.
I don't know. So and
It's a
like the way
very like
that
marketplacey kind of a
yeah,
location.
yeah. I mean even Luce to some extent like she wants to learn magic, and Ida's like instead of making her an actual apprentice is like kind of makes her into an unpaid intern more. And I'm
Yeah.
like so I don't know. I just thought that was kind of really interesting to
That
to
is
see.
actually, now when you talk about it, it's true because even later episodes, there's a lot of stuff centered around the businesses and, stuff like this. I mean, even look at Odalia and uh Emily's dad. Oh my God, his name just Alador. Odalia is just so obsessed with their enterprise and making these abomatrons for the profit of it, and so you're onto something. It is very important for some reason in this world to be very successful in business. That's interesting. I wonder why.
I just thought it was interesting to see that kind of take precedence like over magic, it seems almost.
It's almost like it's reflecting the human realm, how we're like obsessed with business and making money, like as a society, where as opposed to enjoying the planet and enjoying each other. Everyone I feel like just works so much. They don't get to enjoy life as much. So that would be interesting if it's like, dang, you can't even enjoy the magic of this place because you're so busy trying to, make snails as the currency in the Boiling
Yeah.
Isles.
Which is kind of a shame because the magic seems so, when it's not terrifying, it's like really amazing.
Yeah, the
So,
wild magic. Like when they go back in time and it was just everyone helping each other and using magic for all these good things, and then freaking Philip had to just go ahead and ruin all that.
yeah. But I don't know, like maybe at the end, like in season three, we'll see a kind of return to that
I think so.
less
Yeah.
less snail-based society.
Hopefully. Hopefully it's much more free and, wild as it should be.
Moving on from the setting, so only a few categories left. So this one I just call witch training, and it's just like talking about the magic at this point in the
Cool.
show. And I mean, we don't get a lot of magic yet. Like we were just
Mm.
talking about how it's more capitalism based than magic based at this point.
Right?
Um, so I don't know what else to add. Oh, the one thing about magic that I was kind of curious about is because like everyone we've seen so far is called a witch at this point,
Hmm.
with the exception of Adagast, who's like the one wizard, and I think he's the only wizard we ever see.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, or was he really a wizard though? Because he was just puppeteering as a wizard.
True, but like, so I'm
I
thinking
guess so
kind
he
of
is just a witch too.
probably, or I guess he's like a demon,
Oh, yeah, maybe he is just a
because
demon
witches
then.
are, yeah, witches are specifically like the human-looking ones with the pointy ears.
Right, right. Didn't they have like that? I forget which episode it was, but they had like going through, and that's why like little tiny nose will eventually grow up and have like her like a full body and stuff. She's just in the baby stage, remember? Like they were showing the different species that live in the demon realm.
Yeah, that was the season two Hootie episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Wait, was that knocking on Hootie's door?
I think so, because yeah, that was the king story.
No freaking way. Yes, it was. You're right.
And
I
then
can't
again,
believe I
Lumity
forgot that.
overshadows everything. So
Of course. I mean, we did not know that was coming either. I love how they camouflaged it as a Hootie episode and it totally turned into a Lumini episode.
yeah, no, that was hysterical. I love seeing the reactions to it.
That's my
Um,
most viewed reaction on my channel of all time so far. It is insane. It reached like 500,000 views already, and I'm like, are you serious? This moment has been watched 500,000 times. I was like, holy crap. But it just goes to show how impactful that was, like how big that was. And it's just, you're right though, it totally overshadowed everything else.
which is it's fair. It's
Yeah.
deservedly so. Um,
That's true. That's true.
yeah, no, so I don't know, the wizard thing, to get back to that, I think like King mentions like wizards too, and he's like, oh, they're just like people with glitter in their pockets.
Yeah.
So I guess like supposedly there are other wizards, like real wizards, maybe.
Hmm.
Or maybe the implication is that all wizards are like these illusion type puppet things.
Oh,
I don't
interesting.
know.
Maybe. That's a good question.
I don't know. I was just curious about it. I don't have like anything very insightful to talk about,
It's
but
a question for sure though, that it would be nice to get some answers and insight on that one.
absolutely. But I think that's kind of it for magic. So moving on to like the different themes that are presented in the episode, which I don't have a good title for this topic yet. like want to call it something relating to like Azora, because she's the
Hmm.
good witch Azora. So I need to come up with something. But yeah, I mean, I think like the focus of this episode is basically just on, the chosen one trope in the
Yeah.
story.
Yep, and how
So
it's not always exactly what you think it is.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Luce, I love her whole just like everything's going so well for her. She's just like enjoying it, like basking in the limelight.
Oh, she loves
But
it. Yeah, she absolutely loves it. It's so funny to watch her go through that. She's like, yes! She's just like living her best fantasy, I swear.
yeah, which was amazing. I mean, all like the fairies giving her presents and stuff, and oh, it was
All her
great.
little trinkets and outfit and everything. Then they wrap her up in it later. She's like, oh, betrayed by the gifts or whatever. I forget what she says, but
Yeah, like cool accessories or something. I don't know.
yeah,
It was
betrayed
something
by
like
the cool
that.
accessories. I was like, oh, darn, that's a shame.
Yeah. But I loved seeing I love seeing just this idea in this show. Like I remember when I first watched The Owl House, I kind of like struggled with season one a little bit.
Mm,
It just like wasn't my favorite show, and then like season two came, and I was like, this is just impeccable.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
but I always just really liked this idea of like people not being chosen ones, and like we all got to like choose for ourselves and do our own thing.
Yeah.
And like I think Ida just like summed it up really well at the end, where she's like, "Oh, we can't like wait for a prophecy to like choose us, otherwise we'll just like be waiting forever."
Yeah. No, that was really good. I always like the way that they kind of like, wrap up the episodes with some really good messages and lessons. And I think what I like about the Owl House too is that even though Luce is the main character, main protagonist and everything, she's not a chosen one. It's not one of those stories because at the end of it, everybody is playing a part in saving this realm and I kind of like that. I like that it includes all these different kinds of characters and they're kind of working together as one to accomplish these things, but it's not all on one main character's shoulders or storyline. It's everyone. And I think that's really cool. And I like that there's a variety, diversity with the characters. And they just do that so well. I think it's just done so, so well.
And especially later on, like once we find out more about Bellows, like
Mm,
it's not. I mean, yes, like Luce has this connection to him because of like their humanity, but
right.
and humanity being like they're humans, not that Bellows actually has any like sense of humanity.
He doesn't have
Um,
a soul.
no,
He makes a great antagonist though. He is a great, great villain because he is such a jerk. I wanted to say
yeah,
another word, but I won't.
thank you. Okay, that
Save the
that would have been
bleeps.
fair.
Yeah, he's
Um,
such a bleep.
but yeah, but like, I mean, I definitely feel like there's this sense that like anyone could have, followed Albert into the door, and
Hmm.
maybe not. I mean, they wouldn't have had the same exact story as Luce, obviously, but like,
Hmm.
it just so happened that like she was the one who saw Albert that day and like, followed him in. But this story could have been like so different.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's like it just happened to be her. She was at the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, however you want to look
Yeah,
at it.
we'll see. The jury is still out on that one.
Right. I'm pretty sure it'll be right place at the right time because she's definitely grown as a character. And you know what? It's going to be interesting to see if her mom notices that now that she's back. It's
Hmm.
like, will Camila get to see how much her daughter's actually grown and changed? I hope so.
I think so. I think she already
Yeah.
has to a degree.
Yeah.
We'll see for sure.
It's going to be fun.
The last thing that I have is just kind of a general, like, if there's anything that we just want to
Hmm.
talk about.
Sure.
Um,
Anything specific you want to talk about?
I don't think I had anything in mind, really.
Yeah, it's kind of hard with these early episodes because there's not too much going on. Like, we don't really get to the nitty-gritty of the storyline until like way later. So, yeah, I feel like it's kind of hard to get to dive deep with these early episodes because they're definitely more just establishing environment and characters and things, names, places. So it's kind of always fun though to go back and see the characters and be like, "Oh, honey, you have no idea what you're in for." You are so
Yeah,
naive. You have no idea.
no, for sure. And just like makes me so excited to like get them to that point
Oh,
where we get to see
right?
them later.
Yes, for sure.
We'll kind of end it there.
Sure.
So, Elijah, if there's like any social media or like your channel, if you just want to like promote that.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, and if anyone's interested on watching me react to a lot of fun shows, you can find me on YouTube under Not-So-Average-Fangirl, and as well as Instagram, Twitter. It's all Not-So-Average-Fangirl, same handles. Stay tuned for those who do watch the channel. I actually just started reacting to First Kill as well, that new Netflix show that's on there. I'm gonna be finishing Heartstopper and, of course, Owl House when it comes back. And some other shows are coming. So, yeah, if you want to check that out, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh no, my computer just
No.
did something. Oh, there we go. Oh no, weird Wi-Fi day. Um,
We always get those. Wi-Fi is supposed to work, and sometimes it just wants to be a brat.